Y'all get that existential dread sometimes? Like, really worrying about a lot of things that don't have anything to do with computers? Yeah, I get that sometimes too. Let's do a build, because that gives me comfort. I can feel it in my soul. I just like putting computers together and kind of seeing, where the technology's taking us. What are they doing? There's something different about this. So for this build, we're going to use the X870e Tomahawk Max Wi-Fi PZ. The genesis of this build is sort of interesting. It's not just the existential dread and, worry about all the things. I mean, you probably can't even build a computer like this because of the global macroeconomic situation and whatever else. So I'm going to, so that you don't have to. We can live vicariously. But this motherboard is different. Well, I mean, we'll look at the rear I/O first, because we got HDMI, 10 gigabit Type A, we got 40 gigabit Type C. Yes, that is a Thunderbolt compatible interface on AM5. AMD is just killing it there if you've been living under a rock. 5 gigabit Type A, 3 ports there, 4 USB 2.0, 5 gigabit LAN built in. It's nice to see. Another 10 gigabit Type A port and another 10 gigabit Type C port. Well, I mean, the 40 gig ports will run at 10 gig, but they're not Thunderbolt, but this one's 10 gig. And then you get your Wi-Fi 7 antenna connectors, line out, microphone in, and optical SPDIF. For the wired LAN, that is a Realtek 8124 5 gigabit solution. Realtek has got some actually not bad 5 and 10 gigabit Ethernet solutions now that aren't a zillion dollars. I really wish Realtek could have done that like 5 years ago, because everybody needs to be on 10 gig. 10 gig is also kind of the end of the line for copper interconnects. But this build and board layout is different. Do you see what this board does not have, at least on this side? Connectors. They're all back here. That's the PZ. We're going to need a PZ case to go with this as well. But you'd be surprised how many contemporary and already launched and recently launched or recently launching or launching soon cases have compatibility with PZ motherboards, front to back motherboards. Yes. Are all your favorite case brands and everything like that. So this is X870e, which is already a high-end chipset. We've got a lot of M.2 connectivity here, dual PCIe Gen 5. It's a fun game with the PCIe Gen 5 lanes, because you can use some of your Gen 5 lanes for Thunderbolt and some of them for that second Gen 5 M.2. So you got one M.2 that's 4 lanes of PCIe Gen 5, one that's 2 or 4 if you turn off Thunderbolt. So you've got options there. But even with just 2 lanes of PCIe Gen 5, that can do 8 gigabytes per second. That's pretty fast. And then you've got more M.2 on top of that. So, you got M.2 options. Also, one of the things that I really criticized on other MSI motherboards is the power connector. Because on other motherboards, the power connector was here on top. And so if you wanted to put a GPU hanging off the end of your motherboard, it was problematic because you couldn't plug in the power. Like MSI actually came to my office. This was last year, I think, early last year, over a year ago. And they were like, so what do you think of the boards? And I was like, that power connector is going to get in the way. And they looked at me like I grew 3 heads. And then they said, you know what? You're right. It's not a problem on this motherboard at all. I could go for a Threadripper with front to back power connections, not for the aesthetic reasons, but for just using all of the slots for GPUs, because I've had to go crazy using like PCIe Express, like cable breakout cards and bifurcation cards and just all sorts of craziness. This is a little more pedestrian. This is a little more normal. And there are some people that are doing this for purely aesthetic reasons. 4 SATA connections, a USB 2 breakout header, I think. Got 4 SATA Type C, front panel Type A, front panel Type A. So a total of 4 or 5 gigabit ports for your front panel here. Optional power, but it helps the board be more stable. So yeah, it's nice. 4-pin fan headers, USB 2 headers, RGB, front panel, SPDIF, easy connector. Wow, there's a lot of 4-pin fan headers on here. We got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 4-pin fan headers. MSI is not messing around. And that is ample rear I/O. All right, what else we got in the box? Stickers, M.2 mounting accessories. It's like a USB stick with your drivers and stuff. You should download this from the internet. Don't even bother with what's on the USB. Got a movable Wi-Fi antenna. That's nice. This is a high-end Wi-Fi antenna. So it's not just a rubber duck antenna, which is just, screws in the back. This is good. So you can move it away from sources of interference. You get 2 SATA 6 cables. Looks like a USB 2 extension cable. An MSI installation key helper. Some more M.2 mounting hardware. Quick installation guide. Regulatory notice. I got a breakout here for more USB and RGB. Yeah, so it's a pretty nice accessory bundle. Now, in case you're wondering about the PCIe layout here, there's PCIe Gen 5, 16 lanes all the way to the CPU. This is only one PCI Express lane, and that is through the chipset. And this is 4 PCI Express lanes through the chipset. This would be a pretty good motherboard if you have a 4-lane hardware capture card, or you add a 10 or a 25 gigabit network adapter to this platform. You'd use the bottom slot. You could use the middle slot for a higher end audio card or a specialty 1X PCIe card. Some lower end capture cards only need 1 PCI Express lane, so that's an option, but this is not a dual GPU setup. If you're thinking about using this for AI or something complicated like that, you want to pick a different MSI motherboard that'll give you X8 PCIe Gen 5 lanes to the CPU, and then you can run a dual GPU configuration. This is pretty typical of what most people need, though. We're not most people here at Level 1 Tax. Existential dread. If we're doing front-to-back motherboards, we're going to need a front-to-back case and GPU and other accessories. We're going to need more than a motherboard to get this party started, all right? Ryzen 7 9850X3D. We've got some G-Skill Trident Z Expo Neo memory. This is F5 6000J 2836G16, so 32 gigs total, because anything more right now is just splurging. And also a Samsung 9100 1 terabyte. Oh, yeah, and the GPU. 5070 Ti. This is a unicorn. 5070 Ti, and it's PZ. What does PZ mean in a GPU context? It just means that 12v2 connector is in a hidden location. Also, being from the holler, should I say that this is as rare as a chicken's tooth instead of a unicorn? That's rarer than a chicken's tooth. Mm-hmm. French fried potatoes. Oh, the case, right. Yeah, we need a case too. Yeah, it's the MSI Mag Pano M100R PZ. Now, this is not a sponsored build or anything like that. MSI did send some of these components. Some of these components I supplied. I'd build things because why not? I've literally never done a PZ build before. And honestly, I don't really care about the aesthetic. It's like front to back, wire connectors, I don't really care. And then it was kind of unexpected. Like, okay, front to back could be useful in multi-GPU scenarios. It could keep the power cables out of the way. It also could be nice for airflow because you can have all those cables not be there. And airflow is more important than ever, given that, we're heading into 1,000-watt GPU territory, or at least we would be if VRAM was, not a hot commodity. So let's get this thing put together and see where that takes us. Well, in my haste, I wasn't paying attention. This MSI case is micro ATX. It's designed for micro ATX and ITX motherboards. It's a 5-slot, which is cool because, that's harder to find. It's got a lot of room, as you can see. It's kind of a big case. So it's not going to work with the motherboard that I picked, though. That's the front to back to show it off. But you know what it will work with? The Fractal North Momentum Edition. This is the North XL. And it's also black. So we're doing a black and white build. Woo! Everybody remember black and white? That was actually sort of a fun game. So this is the North Momentum XL. It's a new case from Fractal. It has two 3.5mm headphone and microphone on the top, two USB Type A and a USB Type C. Recessed power button. It still has the real wood front. It is real wood under here. It's just black. They blacked it out. Everything's black. Now the Momentum XL is interesting, especially when we're talking about the front to back motherboards. If you want to hide your cables, you can do that in the XL, but you can't do that in the non-XL. And part of the reason is because of motherboard cutouts. Like the case has to be designed to support front to back motherboards, which means that the cutouts on the back of the motherboard are larger to accommodate the cables. But it also means the keep out area, the area between the motherboard tray and the side of the case, has to be more. So you need a wider case. Well, Momentum XL, the North XL, the larger Fractal cases can do that, but the smaller ones cannot. So the North non-XL doesn't support the front to back motherboards, but this one does. It's got a lot of other cool features. We've covered a lot of Fractal cases before. I'm just retreading new ground. There's another video on the North. This is just another aesthetic for the North that happens to be launching today. So I thought this was really convenient. Get the top. We've even got the cloth pull string. They still haven't added a mechanical fastener for the top. I would love some sort of mechanical fastener or mechanical lock to lock the top onto the case. The side panels have captured screws, which is really nice. And there's other quality of life improvements in this case. It's got really good cable management in the motherboard tray. It goes together pretty easy. It's pretty easy to build in, as evidenced by our build here. And this is the aesthetic that you can achieve. Except for one thing. Our 570 Ti also supports hiding the cable without resorting to proprietary insanity like strange card edge connectors on the video card, which I think is like this GPU would actually work really well. I complained about small form factor builds the other day, but this GPU would work well in a small form factor build if it were a true 2-slot card, because this kind of cable mounting solution, power mounting solution for the GPU makes a lot of sense, because there's a removable door and you slide the cable in, and that's what it does. So let me shut it down and show you. Look, our system's running great. Woohoo, 9850 X3E. Look at that. Look at that. You can hide the power connector. Why didn't we do that? It's because we just, want to show you. Also, check out that GPU quick release button. I just hit the button, and I didn't have to fight with getting the GPU to release from the motherboard. And boom, look at that. The cables are completely hidden. Complete. That's why you're building this kind of a system, is because you don't want to see the cables. Ironically, though, if you get a larger GPU, you're going to need a support bracket or something. You can 3D print something, I suppose, but in our case, our MSI, like this specific card from MSI, doesn't really need the bracket. It's not very heavy. And it's still got a great flow-through design. I forgot if I mentioned the power supply. That's the Hydro G FSP. None of these people are paying me to say this. This is just like this build. If you want to do the build, this is the power supply that I chose for this build. FSP makes server power supplies. That's what makes them good. Woo! When you look at this side of the case, you can also get a better idea for what I was talking about with the cable clearance. Because look how far that USB-C cable sticks out the back of the motherboard. You wouldn't be able to do this if the motherboard were located closer to this side of the outside of the case. And in fact, it's still a little tight. When you put the side on, it does push on these cables a little bit more than I would like. It's not bad. I just wish that we had just, like 5 more millimeters of clearance. But it's okay. If this is your first time looking at or hearing about Fractal cases, always check the Fractal manuals. Fractal does an exceptional job putting together the manuals for the specifications, because you could put a lot of stuff in here. AOs of different sizes, 360 millimeters. Then you got fans, 120 millimeter, 140 millimeter. And the manual always gives you examples and example layout of like how you might mount fans. And the North XL actually supports even 180 mil fans in the top. So that's pretty awesome. Bigger fans, quieter, move more air, generally. The overall case dimensions are 503 by 240 by 509 millimeter. You got 2 positions for a 2.5 or 3.5 inch drive, and you got 2 dedicated 2.5 inch drive positions. So you could use a total of 4 2.5 inch drives SATA. Or if you follow this channel, sometimes we use things like IC dock adapters to go to other types of drives, U.2 or E1 now. And so that's a lot of fun. GPU max length is 413 millimeters. CPU cooler max height is 176 millimeters. And for tower coolers, like our tower cooler here, the fan shifts around depending on the memory position. And so it's like, oh, I've got plenty of clearance for the fan. Not necessarily if you have to move the fan to clear the memory, as we have done here, but there's still plenty of clearance for the glass side panel. Oh, Fractal also has versions of the North that have a mesh side panel. And when you get a mesh side panel, you get an extra 280 millimeter AIO mount or fan mount that you can use on the side. Technically, the manual really only recommends you use fans, but I've used an Arctic 280 there, and it was completely fine. And this case does come bundled with 3 Momentum 140mm fans. That's what's in the front for this build. And there's a nice dust filter in the front. So if you pick up this case and you do a build, do you need an extra fan? Sometimes. We're doing a dual fan tower cooler here, so I don't think it's necessary, but sometimes it does help having some type of rear fan. And, you know, a rear exhaust 120mm fan or 140mm fan, or even you can use an 80mm fan in the unused slots here in the bottom of the case. Those are all options. You know, 180mm fan in the top. You know, you've got a lot of options in terms of what you can do with the Fractal case. And you can definitely check back on our old builds. In fact, this is the Old North, and it's dusty because it's been in use continuously since I did the video on it. It's the one with wood accents, but also the mesh side panel version. See, look at that. And I've even got my off-label U.2 connection down there in the bottom. This is the non-XL version, so wouldn't work with my front to back motherboard mounting. Fractal. So yeah, overall, really happy with how this build shaped up. And under testing, our MSI parts have held up really well. This sort of second generation X870 refresh with faster NICs and support for faster memory, 256 gigs of DDR5 6000. I couldn't bring myself to test that. I said, are you still buying 256 gigs of memory for AM5 in 2026? If you are, engage below, because I don't know. But really, I am advocating hard all the motherboard partners to support DDR5 6000 as well as MSI does. MSI is really the standout here. And I hope that continues with future BIOS updates and everything else on their boards, because they have definitely been the best experience for running 4 DIMMs on the AM5 platform overall, and especially at DDR5 6000. DDR5 6000 with 4 DIMMs is nigh impossible as an overclock, and their platform seems to do it the best. So, good job, MSI. Good job, Fractal. Yeah, overall, not bad. Not bad at all. Well, I've got this machine up and running. We'll be able to use it for testing here in the lab. But that means that it's displacing another machine, another slightly older machine. Does that mean that there's a giveaway thread for forum members? Oh, I think it does. We'll have to talk about that on the forum. Anyway, this has been a quick look at the Fractal North XL Momentum. It went on sale today, I think, for $209.99, $210 basically. It is not a lot different than the North XL, except it's black. And I actually kind of do like the black and white aesthetic. So, I don't know. I feel a little bit better having put together a machine, but there's a lot in the world. I think I'm going to have to build a Threadripper machine next. Maybe that'll take my mind off of the state of the world at large. I'm Wendell, level 1. This has been a fun build. And yeah, maybe if you have any thoughts or you want to see any testing or whatever on this particular machine, remember 9850X3D for now. Maybe 9850X3D in the future, swap out the CPU, maybe beef up the cooling a little bit. Maybe some other sort of future configuration. I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, community, get together. Let's solve some problems while we're all fun employed. I'm Wendell, level 1. If you have any questions or whatever, I'm signing out, and I'll see you in the level 1 forums, because why not? All right, see you there.